We are live and talking
Yes,
soccer or
that's right.
football. I,
America's sport.
I just found out where soccer came from. I never knew that before.
Uh-huh.
Soccer actually comes from British schoolboys slang
Ah.
because it used to be in I forget what year, 100 years ago, British schoolboy slang. They used to shorten things, and
Hmm.
soccer actually comes from football association, and the
Ah.
soccer comes out of association.
Mm.
They shortened it to sock and soccer association. So soccer is actually British schoolboy slang that's short for association that caught
Hmm.
on.
Yeah, there used to be about a dozen varieties of football, but now most of them don't exist.
Yeah. And they used to call it soccer to differentiate it from rugby, I think it was too, they said, in British schoolboy slang.
Hmm. Because we had
Good evening,
football
Comic Crack.
football for five players, which was different from futsal because futsal is played indoors. But five-player football doesn't really exist anymore.
I did just see a tweet of Comic Cracks of some more Street Poet Ray out in the wild.
Ooh.
I'm not sure if that's the one he's talking about, but I did see that one. Street Poet Ray comics out in the wild. I want to know if he bought some of them this time because he keeps leaving them behind. And I've yet to see like the who published it before Marvel. Oh, I can't even remember who. I can see the logo. It flew right out of my head. It was a small press, Kitchen Sink, maybe published Street Poet Ray.
I don't remember them. Blackthorn?
Blackthorn, it may have been Blackthorn. But yeah, they were so there was actually some Street Poet Ray before Marvel,
Mm.
if you can believe that. The Street Poet. But here's one of the things I picked up this week. Manara exotic oracle cards.
Oh, nice.
As my Italian student said, Milo.
That is correct. It's Milo Manara.
Yes. Because I said Milo Manara and she went, Milo. I was like, oh, okay. I never knew that. Milo.
Yes, I did. I've mentioned it.
You may have. I may have not paid attention. Milo Manara. But it's I'm sure this is pickup art from somewhere.
Hmm. I may remember that.
Here, let me get big. I'll show you some of it.
Hmm.
Just pick some cards.
Hmm.
And they're all like this one says there's supposed to be themes to this. Purity of purpose. What's this one? Indulging in the impossible pleasure.
Right.
And there's an instruction book that goes with it that's in many languages. The freedom to be yourself. Oh, this is the back of them.
Uh-huh.
Pretty cool cards. Like I said, I was just looking for, I'm not, I don't read fortunes, even though I made my own fortune telling deck one time. The lower and the higher self. But I like cards. So I just happened to be looking at reaching outward. So I just happened to be protecting your feelings by showing your butt. That's how you protect your feelings. But yeah, I was just looking on I said I want to find some cards because every now and then I just buy whatever trading cards, or I go on eBay maybe once or twice a year and buy a deck or a pack. And I said let's look at tarot cards because they everybody makes tarot decks of all sorts of types. And I was just bookmarking a bunch of them, just going I'll I'll buy them when I find them for 50 cents each. How much were they? If they weren't 50, how much do they want for an issue of Street Poet Ray? That's too much. But so I saw these and I was like, oh, cool. Um, $10. I noticed most tarot card decks are about $10 on eBay of all the different types they got, except for I forget who it was. Someone on my so I showed these off on my weekly comic haul this week, and someone mentioned that they knew of a Topi. Is that how you say his name? Toppi.
Yeah.
There was a tarot deck of his, and I was like, oh, let me. And just before I came on here, I was like, oh, let me look those up. And the funny thing was, his deck goes anywhere from $30 to $200, and I'm like, what? Why would somebody pay $200 for a deck of tarot cards that's also sold for 30? I mean, it was amazing. Like I said, almost every deck I saw was $10. So $30 is expensive. Though I've seen plenty of being that on my Instagram, I show off art and cards and stuff like and whatever. I often get ads for like custom tarot or like some general artist putting together their own tarot card set.
Mhm.
And they're usually pretty high end and expensive because they're short run. So some artists did the whole set themselves, had it printed up, and it's like $50, $50 to $80 for a deck of tarot cards. But they're usually big cards, really well printed, and they justify their price with all the work they put in them. But the Topi one didn't look to be that type of deck. It looked to be one. This is obviously mass produced, but I wonder. It says by Elsa Khap Cap Ant UKOV Nikovsky Kapanikovsky, and it's like there's no copyright notice on it or anything or
Mhm.
company name. So I'm not sure how officially licensed it is. There's actually a website, tarotdeck.top, that you can go to and get instructions for it.
Mhm.
And the instructions are. Tell me what these flags are. I forget. Let's see. Solo layout.
Okay, there's a digital guidebook that you can download.
Right. What languages do we have here?
PDF.
Recognize those flags? So that's the British
Uh,
one up in the
I-
top for
yeah.
English.
Italian, Spanish, and Portuguese.
Ah, okay. Italian, Spanish, and Portuguese.
Okay, artwork by Milo Manara, concept by Elsa Kapatnikovsky, text by Elsa Kapatnikovsky and Riccardo Minetti, editing by Elena Del Mastro and Lonaya Weatherstone.
And they had tons and tons of different decks on their website too.
Okay, yeah, the PDF that you can download does have copyright information.
Ah,
They're
okay.
called Los Caraveo, the the beetle, whatever. All illustrations copyright Milo Manara. Los Caraveo via Cegna 110 in Turin, Italy.
Ah, so they're Italian?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and it teaches you what the cards mean and the chakras mean and
Yeah. Chakras, Eros, and astrology. It says on top. You can read three different systems. You can figure out the future. If you can't figure out the future with these cards, you're not even trying.
yeah, no.
Yeah,
This is boring me. Yeah, I'm trying to read the PDF. No, this is boring me.
it's not worth reading.
Okay, so there's Granny's Postcards Tarot, Harry Potter Magical Meditation, Alice in Luna, Wheel of the Year. What the heck?
There was like 40 of them right on the first page, and
Yeah.
I think it had more pages. I didn't actually go through. I was like,
Surreal,
whoa!
Surrealist Tarot. Where's there's
And here,
Supernatural? There's one for Supernatural, the TV series.
and,
One for Book of Shadows.
and on sort of the opposite end of the tarot card deck,
Oh, here's
the
one
other
for
one I
Alice in
bought
Wonderland.
is a Friends tarot card deck. The
Oh,
illustrations are not quite as good, but
mm.
they're not super terrible. Look into your future from Central Perk.
Yeah.
And these ones are an actual tarot card set. They've got all the and there's a couple of instruction cards in the front. So the
Mm-hmm.
key to the future is right here. And then they've got. Let me show you some of these illustrations. Like I said, they're not Milo Manara, but they're not badly done. You can actually tell who most of the characters are. There's a Joey. There's a Phoebe. What is she? The magician. There's a Rachel. Let me get into some of the other ones. Chandler as the Hanged Man. We got is this Ross as Death. But it's amazing. I can actually tell who most of them are. Let's see. Where's one that's not one of the lead characters? Most of them are the lead characters. The Five of Wands has all of them facing off. No credits on this one either. Spudnik as the Page of Wands. Where's one? Oh, like here's one with what's his name? Paul Rudd as Phoebe's boyfriend. So it's like you can even tell it's Paul Rudd. Oh, there's one with what's his name from The Simpsons? Hank Azaria. So even with these simple illustrations, the artist gets pretty good likenesses. So I can't bash these too much because nice Phoebe sitting on a chair, but not Milo Manaras, quality.
Mm. Yeah. There's these guys from the Milomanaric deck. They have this one might be interesting.
Yeah.
Tarot in Wonderland deck with Alice and the Rabbit. Mists of
Ah.
Avalon Oracle. Uh, Casanova Tarot. Edgar Allan Poe.
A pity the fool. Long live me, T.
Tarot of Mermaids.
Is there a
Seasons of
Mr.
the
T tarot
Witch.
card deck?
No.
Once again, I don't know how officially licensed these are because
Mhm.
there's no copyright, no website on these ones. No any markings. Not I don't think there's any markings anywhere that tells you who made these. Which is one of the reasons I bought these were one of the first ones I got. I'm like, in the back of these ones is the peephole. I don't know if you know the show Friends very well, but
I hate it.
he hates. He's one of the Friends haters.
That thing
Like,
was so ridiculous. I never understood people who liked it.
I like it. To me nowadays, it's nostalgic. It's my
Mm.
go-to nostalgia show. If I want to kind of be nostalgic about the '90s, I put on Friends. Because I was around their age and in New York City a lot when Friends was on. So that's why it's nostalgic to me. But these are definitely unlicensed because there's no markings anywhere on who made
Mm.
them, where they were made, anything like that. Completely unlicensed. Do you have existential questions about your personal universe? Are you waiting for your job prospects to make a sharp pivot? Starting to get concerned about what exactly they are feeding Smelly Cat? If you answered yes to any of these questions, this deck of laugh out loud friends themed tarot cards just might just have the answers. I don't know if this was a laugh out loud. I did not laugh out loud once at one of these cards, but they're amusing. Was watching Kayfabe today and saw that Miller is working with Manara on a Sun City book. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I was just watching Sleepy Reader's review, and he gave the new Ronin issue 1 a pretty good review. So I was surprised to see. I was surprised to see a good review on that book, just because I don't know. I just expect nothing from it. I just have like so little expectations of this Frank Miller publishing imprint that I was actually surprised to see it get a good review. I was like, oh, cool. Oh, Sin City, yeah. Manara on a Sin City book. Oh, I'd like to see that. But since Miller is doing the layouts, he's also doing what was the last thing Miller did? Did he do something after Dark Knight 3?
Was Holy Terror before or after that?
But Holy Terror was before that. Dark Knight 3 was only 2 or 3 years ago. I thought there was something I was waiting on Frank Miller for. Because what it is have you read 300?
Yeah.
When I first read 300, I got a The Artist What Attracts Me, but not enough to spend $10 Canadian on one. Exactly. And this is also I think it was $8 American. The Ronin book 2. The reason I didn't get it was I originally bought 300, but I think I missed an issue somehow. I was like, I bought the first issue, thought it was okay. I think it was maybe 4 issues originally, 300. And I got like 1, 2, and 4. Because I just wasn't that into it. I just kind of bought them because I saw them. Maybe it was a slow week, and I kind of liked it. But the layout of 300 and Holy Terror, he did everything was a double page spread. That kind of left me cold. There was a spine in the middle of every. But when he printed it, when they got printed in hardcover, it got printed double wide, so that every double page spread was now a single page on the left or the right. And when I read it that way, I really liked it. And I went, oh, that's what he was, it struck that was how he meant it to be read, obviously. Because it just didn't read as well with a spine in the middle of every double page spread. It read perfectly, it read beautifully with, a full double page spread next to a full double page spread, because it was, it opened up that wide. And Ronin Volume 2 is laid out that same way. So is Holy Terror. I thought he had one after it that I skipped and was waiting for it to be collected, but now I've forgotten. That's what happens to me when I wait for things to be collected. I just forget about them. It's like, oh, I'll get the collected edition of that. That means I'll forget all about the collected edition.
I never waited for the collected editions. What I did was made sure that I noticed things I wanted by leafing through previews.
Yeah. Well, I used to, when I was buying, like from about 2008 to 2010, I was buying mostly collected editions, just because there weren't a lot of monthly comics I was interested in. And at that time, I used to go to, what is it? There's a site that started as a Masterworks What If site.
Mm-hmm.
It's still there. it started out as, these are the Marvel masterworks we'd like to see. Of course, they've all come out since then because the site was started 25 years ago.
Yeah.
But but now it's kind of a site that shows you what all collected editions are coming out. And back in those years, I used to look at it every week and see what collected editions were coming out and keep track and put down and pre-order the ones I wanted. But since I stopped doing that, I never notice when they come out. I put stuff on my Amazon wish list and then it sits there until years later, or one of my families, or I don't know if I showed off both these. I know I showed off one of them, but I finally completed my set of Charlie's War because I got 3 out of the 5 like 12 years ago, I think it was. And these 2 have been sitting on my Amazon wish list for over a decade. So I finally went, I'm just going to get them, and how to get them used because they're not in print anymore. But it's Pat Mills and Joe Calhoun, Colquhoun. I don't even know if that's Calhoun. I've never seen a Q in the middle of Calhoun, but that's as close as I'm getting. World War I stories. And I'm really a sucker for World War I stories. I mean, World War II stories are fine too, but it's like World War II stories are all sort of action stories and sometimes morality plays. Because there's a clear bad guy, the Nazis. But World War I stories are just like all tragic. There was so much senseless death in World War I, and no real clear bad guys and good guys. It was just a completely senseless slaughter.
Yep.
That it's just like such a setting for sad stories.
Mm-hmm. Go over no man's land.
Yeah. And
the guy who did Charlie's War. Yeah. The guy who did Charlie's War co-created a soccer comic strip which appeared in British magazine Tiger. And it's one of the longest running comic book strips in the UK.
Wow, a soccer comic strip.
Yeah, it was called Roy of the Rovers.
Roy of the Rovers. Now, was it about the drama of a soccer game, you think, or the drama of like being on a soccer team? It's like the one guy stealing the other guy's girlfriend.
No, I think it was mostly about the game. Yeah.
Chris Gerusso's here, but he's all gray. He's here, but he's back in black.
You heard us talking about soccer and he left.
More soccer talk. What do you think about the NAM, Vietnam, modern age, senseless slaughter? Yeah, there's some of that, but I think there's, what it is Vietnam is its own thing too, because it was senseless, but it was senseless for the Americans. It wasn't senseless for the Vietnamese. So it's a little different type. Like World War I is just senseless all around, both sides, just completely senseless. Vietnam was kind of senseless for the Americans, but heroic for the Vietnamese because they won the war. They kicked out the imperialists. You know, you can feel for that. But that being said, like Junkyard Joe issue 1 was a really good Vietnam story. So there are really good Vietnam stories, and there are senseless Vietnam stories. But most Vietnam stories, you know, have the same lesson. You know, don't get involved in imperial foreign wars. Not a good idea. Some of the best golden art. Oh yeah, golden art's always good. Manny NYC, how are you doing tonight? I haven't seen you around in a while, though I do watch some of your Saturday morning show. I haven't caught one in a little while. I don't think you've had one in a little while. The New York Warriors that are on Big E's channel. They sometimes do some auction shows, often Friday nights, and they often do like a Saturday morning coffee show where they talk about comics. So if in case you've never seen the New York Warriors, check them out. Some good stuff. All good. That is good. That is good. Mm-hmm. Have you ever read The Nam?
No. I did read a couple of I think I read one of the 5th to the 1st stories, the ones that appeared in Savage Tales before The Nam started.
Yeah. Yeah, I only read a little of that too because The Nam started just as I stopped reading most Marvel comics, so it kind of fell off my radar. I remember reading the first issue or two and going, "Oh, that's pretty good," but I didn't follow. I can't remember what year it started, but it was probably the mid '80s, from like '84 to '88 when I was in college.
Yeah. So if it appeared in Savage Tales Volume 2 as a prototype, that was in 1985 or '86.
Yeah,
and then it moved. Yeah, but maybe '86.
So it was not only were Marvel Comics dropping off my radar, I only made it to the comic shop since I was away once every month or two to pick up my pull list. So it's like I couldn't keep up with a book like The Nam that I would have just picked up sort of on impulse. But I remember I picked up a couple issues of it just because it was Michael Golden art. And I was like, why the heck not?
Yeah. The thing, eventually Marvel starts doing whatever they want with it, and they have the Punisher guest star.
Yeah.
Constantly.
I remember that. Yeah. The Punisher.
But those weren't published here. The Brazilians published 5th to the 1st and the first 3 non-stories in a black and white magazine. And then they started publishing in color from issue number 4, and it went up to 16, I think. Because it was that cover where they have the Avengers, because the guy's reading a comic
I remember that one. Right.
So that's why it does make sense that the Punisher starts to get starring, because those stars were supposed to be in the real world, not in the Marvel universe.
But the Punisher was everywhere.
Yeah, as the Punisher's origin was tied to Nam, he had to appear. Had to.
I am the Punisher. I punish the guilty because they're the guilty. That's my favorite line that got cut out of the first Punisher movie. We were lucky enough to see a rough cut of it on VHS at the time. And it was just like, that was who? Was Dolph Lundgren the first one to play the Punisher? Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was, I think it was the movie, it was officially not being released at that point. But somehow they sent a rough cut of it on VHS to the office. And we all passed it around to watch just because, we wanted to see the Punisher movie that wasn't coming out. And I don't know if you guys know what a rough cut is out there, but it's before they have before the movie is finished. It's not as finished edit state. They don't have all the music in. They don't have all the sound effects in. And they put in stand-in sound effects. and I didn't notice this, but other people geekier than me did. There's a scene where they have at the end of the movie where he's in like a Japanese office, and they have the Japanese paper doors. Mm-hmm. And every time a Japanese paper door would open, there'd be the Star Trek door opening sound effect. That's just what they roughed in place of whatever sound they were going to use. And the line they we liked the most in the movie, at one point near the climax, the Punisher says, "I punish the guilty because they're the guilty." And they cut it out of the final version, so only
Of
we
course,
got
it's
to see
very
that
cheesy.
brilliant, yeah, that brilliant Dolph Lundgren line. I was like, oh, how could they cut that out?
No, it's the 80s and early 90s were amazing because you had 3 different foreign guys always playing hard-boiled Americans in action movies.
Yeah.
It was Lundgren, it was Van Damme, and it was Schwarzenegger. I am American. You can hear it in my accent.
Like I said, I always say, growing up near New York City, I don't question any accents. I never ask anyone what they're, because you hear so many accents that someone could be making up a fake accent to me and talking in it all day. I would be like, okay.
I was born in the Midwest.
San Francisco. That's one of the lines from Gatsby, as a matter of fact. In Gatsby, a lot of the characters are actually from the Midwest. Nick is from the Midwest. Tom is from Chicago. The 2 girls are from Louisville, Kentucky. And at one point, Nick asked Gatsby where he's from. And no one quite has a line on Gatsby yet. No one can figure out his BS. And he's like, "Oh, I'm from a well-to-do family in the Middle West." And Nick goes, "Oh yeah, where?" And Gatsby goes, "San Francisco." And Nick just goes, "Okay." And I like when they do stuff like that, like isn't even questioned. I'm like, you don't even say San Francisco isn't the Midwest. But no, and they just keep going on. It's just like that. That's why that book's so good. It's just got so many little things in it that you go,
I think Lundgren did his best American impression in The Punisher.
Yeah.
But Van Damme was consistently more believable. And Arnold was Arnold.
My favorite crazy bad movie from that action movie period was who was the gymnast that they had in Gymkata? Kurt Thomas or somebody?
I have no idea.
He was an American gold medal gymnast. I think it was Kurt Thomas was his name. In the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, and they decided to make him an action movie star. So they had this movie he was in called Gymkata. And the highlight was in this in this abandoned town. And there just happened to, and his fighting style was based on his gymnastics. So like in the climax scene, like in this abandoned town, there was like a pommel horse in the middle of town. So he could grab onto it and start swinging around and kicking people. It was just like, what?
Yeah. I saw American Ninja 4 the other day. I'd never seen 4. It's the one where they try to bring back Dudikoff because he bailed on doing 3. Here's the thing about American Ninja. 1 and 2 are cheesy enough to be good popcorn movies. They have that good level of cheese and action, the good balance of cheese and action. Then 3 is of no interest because Dudikoff isn't in, and it's 4. They're milking it and it doesn't work.
There we go. Central California. Central is mid and California is west, so Midwest.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Happy Friday, sleepy reader.
That's like saying Baton Rouge is on the East Coast.
Look, here's Chris again. He's not just a big black rectangle. Let's let him get his headphones on so he can say hello.
You can probably hear me now, but
I can hear you. Oh, he can't hear us. He's not plugged in.
You're probably getting that echo.
No echo yet.
Okay.
All right. Chris is plugged in and ready to go. How are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. What you working on?
Commission stuff.
Commission stuff. I almost bought your blue check card. I saw that one and it amused
Very popular.
me.
Everyone wants to be verified.
I said to myself, no, I'm going to let another Chris Giarrusso fan get it first. If it's still there in an hour, I'll get it. Because I thought it would go pretty quickly, and it did. In case you don't know, Chris sells art cards. Baseball card size original art. And he sold one that was there we go, art card. That was, as he said, a white check, better known as a blue check. Because it's actually, I never noticed until Chris pointed it out. The blue check in Twitter is actually a white check on a blue tweet background. So he sold one of those. He's like, and he sells these for what, $10 a piece on chrisgiarrusso.com?
Well, inflation, you know.
How much are they?
$10.99 now.
$10.99 a piece. There you go. Hey, $10.99 a piece is a bargain. That's $10 plus $1 for the envelope and stamp. Cosmo, the space dog.
Yeah, before we had Cycle from the GoBots. There he is.
Did you see him recently?
No.
Yeah. Cycle appeared in something where he was getting his ass kicked?
Yep. Appeared in the same thing that Cosmo appeared in. He was in the Guardians special.
I just watched that last night. That's how I knew who Cosmo was.
So, yeah, not only is Cycle part of the scene where there's people dressed up in costumes for taking pictures for money, but both Drax and Mantis recognize him as a GoBot.
Oh, is that who that was?
And she says, and she's trying to back Drax, and she's like, his cousin was killed by a GoBot. Which instantly canonized the GoBots as part of the Marvel Universe.
I did not recognize that. When I saw that scene, I was like, I don't know who that guy is supposed to be.
Yeah, but I think some people were getting excited about the prospect of the GoBots being in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
Marvel does not own the GoBots.
They don't, but they've got a history. Those two characters knew on sight that guy's a GoBot. They're known throughout the galaxy.
If Disney wants to own the GoBots, Disney's going to own the GoBots.
Well, they have to buy Hasbro. Here's the thing.
Hasbro owns the GoBots.
Yeah, because when they bought Tonka, they bought the GoBots. And there were even a couple of attempts at making the GoBots a sub-line in the Transformers about 20 years ago. But they weren't trying to bring back the original GoBots. It was something new. So I guess people like the GoBots because of their ridiculous original designs, not because just of the name GoBots. If you try to do GoBots and they are well designed like the regular Transformers, they're not that fun.
I want to show Chris this. I've had this sitting around for a couple of years now. And the only reason I still have it is because I think it's kind of cool and I want to give it to a fan, but I don't know any. This is an 80s tees catalog that came in the mail with a, free poster inside. Let me show you the free poster. The free poster, I'm not sure where this came from, may have been a comic book, is a Turtles, Transformers, G.I. Joe, He-Man poster.
That's something else.
That's a pretty cool poster.
It is.
And I was like, I wish I had a G.I. Joe fan or something, one of you guys around. I'd give it to you because it's a pretty cool poster.
What year was that published?
I think it was just a couple of years ago. Let me see. I think there's a little date on the signature. No, by Williams II. What's that guy's name? I recognize the art. I think I've had this for maybe 2 years. It's just been sitting here, but I don't think there's a date on it. Let me see.
There's no indicia.
I don't think there's indicias in catalogs. No. Maybe if I could figure out the postal code.
There may be a copyright notation somewhere on the cover or the back cover.
Nope, not even a TM or an R. I guess they don't care if someone steals their intellectual property as a their
It might be
catalog.
because 80s tees themselves are the ones,
Yeah, I don't know if they
is that stuff licensed?
Yeah, it's all licensed T-shirts. So they may have licensed this piece of art or picked it up somewhere. But no, not a single. You got a Thundercat shirt. You gotta be the man to beat the man.
You have to beat up the man.
80stees.com. But yeah, I always thought that was a cool poster, even though I'm not a huge fan of any of those properties. I'm too old. And now it's not J.H. Williams. There's a Williams the second guy who draws the
Freddie?
Maybe Freddie Williams. That might be it. Not 100% sure. Not 100% sure. One interesting comic I got this week. Where'd it go? It's at the bottom. Batvark, the Earth Pig with no vowels. It's, of course, a parody of the Keanu Reeves Berserker. And what's different, it says, and first of all, there's other names on it. Dave Sim, Benjamin Hobbs, David Birdsong, and absolutely nothing by Keanu Reeves, it says up top. But this one isn't actually comic strips. It's a comic. This is the first Cerebus in Hell that's been an actual comic book. And it's a parody of Berserker and I guess Frank Miller. This is parody. Parody is a funny thing. Berserker #1 starts in the rain. Batvark #1 starts in the snow. Big Frank Miller flakes. Big Frank Miller snowflakes there. But it's really well. The whole thing is. I read Berserker #1, but I don't remember it. But this whole thing is Satan promises Batvark that he will show him paradise if he slaughters like 40-page people in 22 pages. So Batvark goes on a killing spree, just killing all the characters in the book. And it's nice to see a comic book with Cerebus in it rather than a comic strip. It's still got most of the same cutout figures, but it's done as a comic book. And I have to say, this one amused me more than most. So I can actually recommend. I usually can't recommend Cerebus in Hell because only if you're like, you have to be a hardcore want to follow Dave Sims weirdness in order to follow Cerebus in Hell. But this one's actually a pretty funny comic. So, and it's copy 1191 out of 1730. So a Berserker parody didn't sell many extra copies of this cover.
But you got one of them.
But I got one of them. I got copy $11.91.
Dave Sim can still be funny when he wants to.
Yeah, he can be. That's why I buy it. I mean, I like his funniness, but some of it's just weird. Some of it's just weird. Huh. Oh man, he caught my flu through the internet tubes. Well, I think I had a sinus thing, not a flu, but I can understand it. It's no fun. There's a lot of stuff going around. My sister had a cold. I still has a cold. I've just been told there's a lot of stuff going around. So, Chris, have you been to the comic store since we last saw you?
Yep.
And your mic's giving us interference every time you talk.
Is it?
Yeah. So we can't go. Well, it's not an echo. It's the mic itself.
How about now?
Talk again.
How about now?
We're still getting static as you talk. Try unplugging and he unplugged everything. Well, we'll see him back when he comes back. Have you been to the store to get anything in the last week, Paulo?
No.
Nope. Have you read anything in the last week?
Well, I've been reading a few of those books that I bought and I started on Garth.
Ah, okay.
From the British comic strip.
Yep.
But the Steve Dowling art is not who was the original artist is not very good. I prefer later artists Frank Bellamy and Martin Dowling.
Okay.
Nobody has any idea who these guys are because they worked for British newspapers.
Yeah.
But Garth was regular here.
Okay. You want to speak, Chris?
How about now?
All right. That sounded clearer.
Okay. This will probably last another 15 seconds and I'll have to log off again.
Maybe. Well, Wilson a couple of weeks ago had to restart his computer. He was getting static. When he restarted his computer, everything was fine. So sometimes that's why I usually, as a matter of fact, I did tonight even, I restart my computer right before I come on. Just because that seems to, I've had problems before, with sound and crack, and a fresh restart seems to make everything run fine with StreamYard.
Well, that was why I was a black square the first time I tried to get on.
You restarted then.
Yeah.
He restarted then. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, he asked me what if I went to the comic store.
Yes.
And I went very specifically to get this.
Not brand X. Let me get you solo so we can see that up close and personal. There we go. Ah. Is that a new one?
No, it's from like 2018.
Okay.
But
it's not from the 70s. Oh, okay. I didn't realize they even put out another issue of that.
Yeah. So I've been requested to give this the blank cover treatment.
Okay. So what are you going to draw on it?
And then draw on a mini Marvel version of not Brand X #1.
Okay. Not that #1, but the original #1?
The original #1. And I mean, this is legacy numbering, so.
Okay. What number did they give it? 14?
This is 14.
All right. Legacy number. I didn't even realize they put that one out.
Me neither.
It was not Brand X was almost never funny, but I still liked it. I can't remember it making me laugh once, but I still thought it was cool that they were trying to make me laugh.
The Skunk Mariner.
Charlie America. How is that even a parody name? Charlie America. What do we got? Hardcover Decorum, Cosmic Ghost Rider, Ophelia, Harrow County, Volume 1, Department of Truth this week for me. Expensive week. Department of Truth is good stuff.
Yes, it is.
Another thing, there was a couple of I got. I didn't get to show it last week on Tim's channel, but I got the latest issue of the Department of Truth. I think it was 22, and at the end it said Department of Truth will be continued, and I was like, does that mean it's on hiatus? I have no idea. It's just because it doesn't say Department of Truth will be continued every other month on the inside back cover. So maybe it's going on hiatus. It's weird. I just never know sometimes with some of these comics I get. And I tried looking it up and couldn't find any info on it. But it's a good comic. I hope you'll enjoy Department of Truth. The only thing Harrow County I read was the Carla Speed McNeil issues. They were good.
I looked over Harrow County, but I guess it isn't for me.
Yeah, I heard good things about it, but I just never... Who wrote that one? Colin Bunn? And I just hadn't read anything by it. Most of the people I saw on YouTube who were fans of it liked Colin Bunn at the time. So they were all into Harrow County. But I never was, so... I'm a big fan. Reminds me of Bill Sienkiewicz a lot. Oh yeah, the Department of Truth. He's got an interesting sort of Sienkiewicz-ish style where he slings. I don't know if it's. I think it's digital paint and ink around a lot. He also uses a couple other styles during it. Sometimes the story calls for him doing a different style, and I should really learn his name because I like his work. The Department of Truth artist, which I can't think of right. I've only read 22 issues of it. Why should I learn? Why should I know his name by now? It is amazing how little I learn names these days. Even though it's like, what's the name of the Birthright artist? I read 48 issues of that, and he picked up as J.H. Williams. He says again, nope, not J.H. Williams.
Martin Simmons.
Martin Simmons, that's it. I recognize it once you're because I actually looked at it and think I actually said it on my pull list 2 Thursdays ago. Because I often will read the creators' names just to let people know and try to learn them myself. But I think that's the artists are. I mean the writers are mentioned so often, I learn their names. Like, I think that's a James Tynion book.
Yeah.
Which I know because everybody on YouTube mentions the writers. I got Harrow County because of the watercolor. I watched the artist process videos and got into it and liked his recent work. Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, like I said, I'll buy anything Carla Speed McNeil does. Except sometimes she just draws stuff. And I think she's like a better writer than most of the writers she's drawing stuff for. So that's always a little disappointing. Oh, the Harrow County artist is streaming later tonight. What's his name? We really should name him since we're talking about his work. Would be nice to give him a shout out.
Mm-hmm. If only one of us had a computer.
Good day. I heard Frank Miller is behind a Corto Maltese TV series. If anyone talks about his first appearance at my local comic shop, Texas will make international news.
I'm not sure Corto Maltese will make for a good TV series.
Tyler Crook is our Harrow County artist. A Corto Maltese TV series.
I don't think it'll work. Hugo Pratt's art style is too dreamlike.
Yeah.
So if you try to turn it into reality, it just becomes boring. And it's going to look
something special with it.
Unless they try to do something, if they try to exaggerate on colors or something, they'll have to do some special effects. Try to make that thing look unreal.
Mm-hmm. You never know, because I remember I watched Legion season 1, but never watched Legion season 2 for. Well, actually, I think I know the reason. I don't know if you've ever seen Legion. It was a Marvel TV series.
Yeah, I tried watching the first episode, and
you can skip the first episode and miss nothing. It was terrible. Just start with episode 2, because I watched episode 1 and was like, oh my God, this is awful. But for some reason I was bored and put on episode 2, and it was good. The only thing about it is it's a show that demands your full attention, in that you have to
watch it.
You have to sit down. Like a lot of shows I'll watch while I'm drawing, while I'm doing something else, and you can follow it through the dialogue and look up at parts. But that was a show that, first of all, the sound design on it was beautiful. The sound was part of the storytelling in a big way, in a way that I haven't seen on other shows. And it was just real. But it was kind of like when season 2 rolled around, I meant to watch it, but I never found the time to sit down in front of the TV and just watch it. I'll have to go back and try that sometime. But it was like the visuals and the sound was just really, really well done, except for episode 1 was terrible and pointless. You could cut that right off from the rest of season 1 and never miss it. I couldn't believe the Corto Maltese nude. Miller, I think, is writing it. Okay. We talked about Monaro working with him on a Sin City book earlier, Gore. Yep, that's because I got my Monaro erotic oracle deck cards, where I can use chakras, eros, and astrology. Pardon me, not astronomy, astrology.
It can predict the future for you.
Yes,
for $19.99 a session.
Piece of cake. I know all about the future now.
That way the deck pays for itself on the first session.
And you'll be glad to know the future has a lot of hot, naked young ladies in it. You don't see that in every future predicting deck. Oh,
Speaking of naked ladies.
Find right in time for some sex, man. Yeah, they know what we're talking about. I predict you'll see a naked lady if you open that pack. Yep. Jared, your influencer power never worked on me today because I went to buy that Charles Burns comic clone you bought this week. And there was too much of a Burns clone. I was saying Boo Earns, which is this one, which I bought because it was but it was kind of a bizarro Charles Burns clone. And let me show you. Because it's Charles Burns, but very distorted. And creepy. But yeah, this guy is obviously a Charles Burns fan. And though I enjoyed the artwork, the stories were kind of pointless. You know, that point, I was watching Sleepy Reader's blog video today, and he was he was reviewing Creepshow #3. And I kind of agreed with him there because I bought the Creepshow stuff where the art's real nice, but the stories were kind of, here's a bad person and a bad thing happens to them. It's like they're not even stories. It's like, this influencer goes into a cave and a monster gets her. And you're like, that's not a story. And this was kind of like that. There's supposed to be horror stories, but there's just people and horrible things happen to them.
That was a complete story in one sentence. Influencer, that's the beginning.
Yep.
Goes into a cave, that's the middle. Gets eaten by a monster. The end.
There you go. That's the kind of story you like. You'll like Pulp Bites and Creepshow, which both have very nice art. I enjoyed them, but not much of a story. I have to watch the rewind, Terrence. Thank you. I have the Creephex Valentina tarot cards. I haven't seen those ones.
Yeah. It also has naked ladies in it.
Yeah. Creephex, man, do I need to hit eBay for those things now? That's where I got my Monaro. I was looking for interesting tarot decks, and I got Monara and Friends tarot decks. Well, Monara is an oracle deck, not a tarot deck, which means they don't follow the tarot cards. Friends follows the tarot cards.
Supposedly.
Great cover and card stock. Yeah, that's another thing. Creepax came out last year, and Time will make a video about them. They are nice. I'll have to look those up. The cover.
All they need to do is a deck about a lesser known erotic comic called Venus. It was created by French writer Roger Lecureau, and it was drawn by Spanish artist Huescar. And it's like a grown-up female version of Little Nemo in Slumberland, because there's this woman who gets herself in precarious positions that end up with her losing her clothes.
Little Ego.
Yeah, kind of like Little Ego, but not quite.
Oh, because I have Little Ego. Who does that one?
I can't remember.
There's an Italian one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That one I got in the 90s. I remember Little Ego by Vincent or something. I'll have to go look. Little Ego in Slumberland. It's about a woman who loses her clothes in her dreams.
Yeah, Venus by Huescar is similar, but it's not very well known because it appeared in Pif Gadget, and then it appeared only in Spain. It appeared in CMOC Volume 1, which is the one that was less known than Volume 2. And it's kind of disappeared. People don't remember it.
What does he say? Victorio? I think he's the one who did Little Ego, right?
Yeah.
It's like when I was buying this, I was also looking at because, as you say, nice cover stock on this one. Very, very nice comic. Feels good, colors good, looks good, good paper. Because I picked up first, I only had 3 comics, I think, on my pull list, or 4. I had 4 comics on my pull list, and I picked 2 up the shelf. But one of the ones I picked up that I wanted to get was there's a new one from Dark Horse that's a Kevin Smith comic. And I think it's the View Askew universe stuff. I think Jay and Silent Bob were on the cover or something. I can't even remember the name of it. But I picked it up. And Dark Horse makes such crappy physical comics. The cover felt like tissue paper. It was so thin. I was just like, even though that one was $4 and this one was $5, I went for the $5 one because this one feels good in my hand. I'm like, this one, I might have bought that one instead if it, was as good a physical comic as this one, because I wanted to buy that one, but I was just like, I cannot buy these Dark Horse comics that are so crappily made. It's like they're printed on tissue paper. It's crazy. I don't know why they do that. Well, I know why they do that, money. But it stops me from buying them. It's got to be stopping other people who pick them up and just go, ugh, and throw it right back. I don't want to pay $4 for a tissue paper comic. That fake Charles Burns needs to send real Charles Burns some love checks. It is definitely a fake Charles, but he's wearing his Charles Burns on his sleeve. But you know what? I haven't been able to get any new Charles Burns, so I got fake Charles Burns this month. And I also think this. I think I heard about this. At the back, it says, "What is this? Can't get enough? Get the whole story inside." So I think Scout Comics is selling these as individual issues or the trade paperback at the same time. So I could go and get the trade paperback of the whole series right now. I think I read about them doing that, but I'm not 100% sure. I know there was another company doing that, TKO or something like that. But they might be doing that too. I think that's what that ad's for. But I'm okay with just the one issue. I don't need any more fake Charles Burns. One issue of fake Charles Burns satisfied my Charles Burns itch. With Arrow's comics, you get a free piece of tissue paper with every issue. I wish I bought some more. I wish I bought Birdland issue 2, because I have Birdland issue 1, which is the Beto Hernandez one that I only rediscovered on my shelf like this year. And I went, wow, this is really good. And there was only 2 issues of it, and I never got issue 2. And if you go looking for issue 2 now on eBay or something, it's $100. I'm like, what are you, crazy? No one's buying that. Fake satisfaction. Fake satisfaction from my fake Charles Burns. Have you read Black Hole, Chris or Paulo, from Charles Burns?
Nope.
No, neither of you. That's a classic, they say. First time I read it, I didn't like it. I read it again a couple years ago and enjoyed it a lot more. Birdland is on my list of books to keep out for. Yeah, if you can find that one cheap, get it. It's really well done. Well done, Eros Comics by Beto Hernandez. Gilbert.
Charles Burns is, I don't know. I can't really get into Charles Burns.
I know what you mean, because for some reason when I first read it, I couldn't either. That's a hole in your comics experience. There you go. A little Black Hole group. I read Black Hole maybe 10 years ago for the first time. I have the hardcover collection. I was okay with it. I didn't think it was terrible or anything, but I didn't really get into it. And then I think it was just this year, I said, I want to read it again. Because I think I really sometimes have, and definitely did in my younger days, have a prejudice against teenage angst comics. If you give me high school teenage angst, it just turned me off. And still does to some extent, I would say. But when I read it this second time, I really enjoyed it. I was able to sort of put my dislike of high school teenage angst outside me, and I enjoyed it. Comic Crack was listening to a Gary Groth interview the other day. He talks 10 minutes or so about Eros. Actually talks about it favorably, which is a bit of a surprise. Hey, it was making him money. He said the line got them out of debt in 9 months. Wow. That's why he talks favorably.
Let's get more Eros comics in the Eros hotline.
Yeah, I'd be getting them in the pipeline too. I'd be like, more Eros comics. Chris, want to draw some nudity? Here you go. Here's a check.
A love check.
I love
literally.
His X'd Out, Hive, and Sugar Skull trilogy is great too for any burn. Oh yeah, I love those. I love those more than I love the Black Hole. X'd Out, Hive, and Sugar Skull. There are 3 slimmer hardcover volumes that he came out with a few years ago. And it's just this weird, surreal story. I would actually recommend those above Black Hole. But most people think Black Hole is a classic. But most people like Teenage Angst stuff. Now I want to know what Chris is looking through his pocket for. What did you get out of your pocket, Chris? What do you got there?
More sketch cards.
Oh, he's got a sketch card case. I've got an aluminum one of those that they sold. Let me show it to you.
Well, I guess you're better than me.
It's in my art go bag. I'm not even saying it's better. I'm just trying to show it to you. Jeez. Your inferiority complex is a little annoying sometimes.
Maybe you wouldn't hear it so much if you weren't constantly telling the whole world on YouTube how much better you are than I am.
Let's see. There it is. I bought this at Dick Blick one time. It's a little...
Wow, it's superior to me in every way.
You wish you were this cool. And look, I even have in it. This is my swatch card of the markers that I carry with me in my art go bag for commuting. So when I'm commuting, I grab this bag, and it's got my 2 pouches of art supplies. I made this up because I was tired of moving art supplies from, stuff I'd use on my desk into my bag, and then I'd take it with me and then move it out when I get home. I'm like, I got to get stuff just for the bag. And then COVID hit. I wasn't commuting for 2 years.
You guys are lying. Those aren't sketch card cases. Those are where you carry your tobacco and your rolling paper.
What do we got here? There's a paperback collection of those Burns books now. Oh, okay. All 3 in one book. That's cool. They get that because it's really good. But I've got they first came out in these. They're like bigger than standard comic book size hardcovers. Had all 5 and are now aware how much better Jared is. All 5 of us are now aware of how much better Jared is. My whole YouTube audience. Chris, that's a great Turtles First poster you got there. Jared doesn't have a great Turtles poster.
You had to go on. I'll bet you he does. Show us, Jared.
Nope, no Turtles posters. Jared put Judy Russo on the map with his mentions on YouTube. No one knew who he was before. I broke him here on this show. Now everybody knows who he is. People are like, Mini Marvels? What's that? Never heard of it.
Thanks, Jared.
No problem. Anytime. I'm here to help. I even helped out fake Charles Burns. What's his name? Pat Higgins. We'll give you his real name. What exact sketch are you drawing now, Chris?
I'm working on a Star-Lord.
A Star-Lord. Uh-huh. And how are you going to prepare that not brand Eck to be a sketch cover? What's your process?
I feel like we talked about that before on this
I know that
very feed.
I know that you coming soon, fake Pat Higgins. I know that you draw the picture first and then fold it on. Right? No, you don't draw the picture.
That's what you do.
That's what I do.
I do the opposite of that.
You do the opposite. First, you get a piece of paper.
I put the blank cover on first.
Oversized, right? You don't cut the cut.
I cut for the right height.
Uh-huh.
Then Then I attach it, and then the length is 2, so there's flaps extending in each direction, and then I cut them off exactly for precision. I would not do this on something I had drawn because like there's the margin for error
is too small.
I feel like I would rather screw up a blank piece of Bristol. I'd rather screw that up than something I spent 2 hours drawing or a day or however long it takes to draw it. Okay, it's all drawn. I put all of my heart and soul, my blood, sweat, and tears into this thing. Now I just have to attach it. I screwed it up. It's over.
Okay.
And I'm surprised that doesn't happen to you because that's exactly the way you go. You never make mistakes.
Well,
how is it to live in a world where you never make mistakes, being so much better than me? Let me explain something
to you. I'm an old school paste-up guy. I was professional at cutting a piece of paper with an X-Acto knife. I did that all day, every day for many, many days.
Well, when I was in 3rd grade, my teachers told me I cut paper like a 4th grader.
I'm just saying I have confidence in my ability to measure and cut. So therefore, I never really worried about it that much.
Well, even beyond the measuring and cutting, you have the irregularity of a comic.
Right.
Like individual comics themselves, they're not perfect. You can't depend on them to all be the same size. You can't depend on them to be cut at perfect right angles.
You know what? I could say it could be that your paper is put on more perfectly than mine. Because I think there were a couple of times I went, I'm about a 16th of an inch short here. And then I went, well.
What's the timestamp this where I got a compliment from Jared?
Hey, look right here. I'm here for Jared's kindness, Paulo's knowledge, and Chris's humor. Everybody wins.
Hey, we should be a sitcom.
And then we try trading places in one episode.
Mm-hmm. And you know what it is? I think I would waste more time, and I have, trying to put a blank piece of paper on and screwing it up than I would. You know, it could be because if I do the drawing, and I've actually done it both ways, but if I do the drawing first, I think I pay more attention to getting it on right. If I don't do the drawing first, I pay less attention and therefore screw things up more.
You're trying to deactivate the bomb.
Yeah.
You put it all on the line and you don't know which wire, like what's one of these wires. You got to cut the right one. You got beads of sweat coming down your forehead while you're attaching that thing. Putting the
when
staples
it's for practice, that bomb's blown up every time. When it's just for practice, I'm like, woohoo, woo, red wire, blue wire, boom, and the confetti goes in my face. If this were real, you would be dead right now. I'm like, oh, good thing this isn't real. And that's, I think, where my time is wasted. Then the love triangle storyline would end the show. Have to keep the tension going. Just don't ever kiss. Mm-hmm. We'll try not to. But Chris thinks I'm awfully pretty, so I can't, bite him off all the time.
I don't know why I didn't understand that, but my mind just went to like somebody's stealing somebody else's girlfriend or something. But I don't know why I thought that. It was ridiculous.
Let's see what else. Speaking of artists whose name I can't remember, it's Hilliard. Daniel Hilliard. And this is Plush. Issue number 1. And it was funny. I was just, and this is by the team who did a mini series I just bought this year called Vinyl, which I enjoyed. It was about that was the one that was the cult versus the serial killer with the retired FBI agent caught in the middle. It was kind of wacky. And this one is about this guy who was going to propose to his girlfriend, but found out she was cheating on him. But his roommate is a furry. So his roommate is like, come to the furry convention with me or something. He's like, I'm not a furry. He's like, just put this on and have a good time with us. Be someone you're not. And the guy's like, oh, all right. So he goes to the furry meeting. And the twist is eventually he's this weird group of furries cannibalizing this guy. And he's like, what the hell is going? This is after his friend slipped him something to help him relax. And he sees this and he runs away screaming. And this guy who is, he's the local cop and is the guy who his fiancée fooled around with him on, arrests him and brings him to the station to meet the sheriff, who is the fiancée's father. And the fiancée's father wants him to go through with the marriage because his daughter loves this guy. And the guy's like, no. And so the local cop is making his life hard. And then at the end...
Wait. The cop...
The sheriff...
The sheriff is the father of the girl that cheated on him?
Sheriff is the father of the bride.
And he's saying, I don't care that she cheated. I don't care that my daughter is a trifling whore.
Does not care that his daughter cheated on him with his deputy. Because his daughter still wants to marry this guy, and he wants what his daughter wants.
Wow.
And then at the end, this crazy one here shows up looking through the jail. It's much like Vinyl. I don't know where this one is going, but I enjoyed it. Wilson is the heart of the show. And he's off playing D&D tonight. Tit Coblin and I were the two people watching Wilson's live stream last night on YouTube. Wilson was trying out something where he live streamed on TikTok, YouTube, and I think Instagram at the same time. So he was showing off some toys and stuff. And Tit Goblin and I were both over on YouTube watching his show.
He crossed the streams?
He crossed all the streams. He was crossing all the streams he could. But he couldn't make it tonight because he's having his last D&D session of the year with, I guess, some friends he usually plays D&D with. Wonder if he plays in person or over the internet. I have no idea. We'll have to ask him next time. But I think I'm going to buy some more issues of Plush, even though it's funny. I mentioned in my haul that I didn't like this cover, and I think it was King Spoet who said, "Wow." He was like he's like, I'm the complete opposite of you because I love it. He mentioned some artist and he said, I love covers like that. And I was like, oh, cool. Glad someone likes it because I actually saw this on the shelf and the cover kind of made me go, not interested in that. And then I realized it was by the Vinyl guys, so I picked it up. I went, oh yeah, I think they were coming out with a new book because I had read about it, but didn't get it on my pull list. But now I'll put it on my pull list. With Doug Wagner is the writer, Daniel Hilliard is the artist, Rico Renzi is the colorist, and Ed Dukeshire is the letterer. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, 12gaugecomics.com. It's an image book. I guess that's their imprint or whatever. Wonder who the copyright holder is. Let's see. Is it 12 Gauge Comics or the individual? Copyright Doug Wagner, Daniel Hilliard, and 12 Gauge Comics Limited Liability Corporation. All sorts of fancy ownership.
So, Plush, Vinyl, Yumi, Thomas River, Plastic, The Ride, Kill Whitey Donovan.
Kill Whitey Donovan?
Mm-hmm. From Birmingham, Alabama.
Who's from Birmingham, Alabama?
12 Gauge Comics.
Oh, 12 Gauge Comics. Okay. They did vinyl, right? That's one of theirs.
Seeing a hole in the comic book marketplace for crime and action-adventure stories, company president Kevin Gardner set his eyes on developing and publishing comics that would fill that niche, one he felt had been ignored for too long by the major publishers.
Yeah, 12 Gauge Comics, Kevin Gardner, Dov Wagner, and Brian Steelfreeze.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder what he's doing there. Probably some art direction.
With an initial story by Doug Wagner, Brian Steelfreeze, and Cully Hamner, The Ride #1 debuted as the top-selling new black and white comic of 2004.
Oh, I remember The Ride. And that was a comic that was about a car. They've been around for that long. That was a comic that was about a car. I think Brian Steelfreeze, and it was like they're having a different artist each issue draw a story about a car. If I can remember correctly. I think I bought the first issue of it, but it was a little too gimmicky for me, and I just don't care about cars. But the Brian Steelfreeze one was pretty. I haven't seen him do anything in a little while. You have any comics lined up now that Officer Clawsome is done, Chris?
Well, it's supposed to be Officer Clawsome Book 2.
Oh, already?
I'm waiting for that the script to be approved.
Okay, but there's definitely going to be an Officer Clawsome Book 2?
Yep. And
what lessons have you learned doing Officer Clawsome Book 1 that you're going to apply to Officer Clawsome Book 2?
I'm basically on Book 1. I learned how to get comfortable with Procreate on the iPad.
Okay.
So I'll be a little bit faster this time.
Now, if I remember right, you were drawing on Procreate but coloring in Photoshop, right?
I'm getting some weird light. Yeah. The answer is yes. Sorry, I'm getting freaked out. My lights are flickering all weird.
Ah.
I don't know what's going on. Must be ghosts.
Ghosts? I'm down with that answer.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out how to color efficiently in Procreate.
Okay.
And it's the real magic is just like how, getting the line art done at print size, at print resolution. You don't have to scan anything after.
Mm-hmm. Tit Goblin really liked that Cavern logo too. I like the color. That's cool. That's I know what they're going for with a logo in that it's supposed to look plush, but the blurriness of it bothers me a little too. But that's just an aesthetic choice. That's just a taste thing. Mm-hmm. Just a taste thing. The comic that's coming out as trade and issues are the same. Do you think that's a good printing strategy to hook readers, or too much overhead and cost? Ooh, I don't know. Because to me, the whole point of it coming out as individual issues is to read it over time. In terms of one of the things I like about serialized comics is coming on here every week and talking about them with, Comic Crack or Sleepy Reader, or whoever, or La Raza, who's also on their channel, whoever else happens to be reading at the same time, we can talk and comment on them. And part of the fun is, I liked this. I didn't like that. I wonder what's going to happen. I think this is going to happen. Maybe this is going to happen. There's none of that stuff there with trades. So to me, printing like TKO does, you could order all 5 issues or the trade. But to me, that's like the same thing almost. I in that case, I think I'd rather order the. I don't even know. The one TKO I bought as a hardcover. But that's a good question. I don't know. What do you think of that strategy, Paulo?
I think they're doing it with Firepower, isn't it?
Well, they only did that with the first volume of Firepower. I think, and that was because they wanted stores to be able to read it. I think.
And they're sort of doing it with Berserker, but what they do is they crowdfund the trades and then put out the comic.
Right. You buy the trade before the comics are even out. You can buy the whole trade. But like the Pulp Bites is one. I think Scout Comics is doing. It's like right now you can buy the trade of this, or wait for the issues. I think that's what Scout Comics is doing.
I don't know. I can't figure out the overhead in publishing the trade and comics at the same time. To me,
I think what would be good about it is you can get all like the push for it at the same time. It's like if the comics came out first, you have to sort of do a marketing push to sell the comic. And then when the trade comes out, you have to do a marketing push to sell the trade. Mm-hmm. If they're both out at the same time, there's only one marketing push. It's an interesting question. I'm not sure. I bought 5 issues with TKO once as a novelty. Firepower had a trade as a prologue and then began the individual issues. Okay. So their first trade was a prologue. I remember it came out at like the same week as the first issue or something. Mm-hmm. Or each story got one copy of it the same week as the first issue. Yeah, I read, it was Sarah, the Garth Ennis and Steve McNiven TKO book, which was about a Russian woman sniper during WW2. And I read it first digitally and liked it so much that I bought the hardcover version when it became available. So I think that's the only TKO one I bought. And funny, someone on my I remember somebody on my may have been Comic Crack on my comments on YouTube said that was like his least favorite of the Garth Ennis books. I was like, that was my most favorite. Because it was like the one time Garth, to me, really seemed to be writing about human beings. Yeah, Sarah was the one I got as individual issues. It was very cool. Yeah, I enjoyed that one. I enjoyed it.
I would never put it out like that. It doesn't make sense to me. And
yeah, I don't know if it makes sense to me either. I don't know how you're supposed to sell the individual issues if not because I think if you're like Sleepy Reader and I, and you like individual issues, their periodical nature is part of what you like about them. Matter of fact, I just saw it came up on my feed in Twitter. I don't know who did it. It was someone I didn't know. Good evening, 62 Lefty Blues. You know that what issue was it? X-Men 128? The issue that ended with Wolverine in the sewer, turning around and saying, "Okay, bub, it's my turn now." On the last panel, the Byrne and Claremont one. Someone posted that page and was like, "Oh, imagine having to wait a whole month to get the next issue of this story." And I was like, I didn't have to imagine. I did it. You know, I lived it. And I can still remember that. That was one of the most dramatic moments in my young comic reading life. Was that moment, and it was the same for everybody, because that's when Wolverine first became badass Wolverine at the end of that issue, and you were just like, I can't wait for next issue, and that's part of the fun of it for me. I can't imagine reading that and the answers on the next page. just the sheer anticipation that hit the sheer excitement when I got to that last page was like nothing else in comics.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was a publisher who said they were going to put out just one issue and then the trade with no further individual issues, but never heard about it. I think Dark Horse did that for some of its like individual series.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember people complaining about it.
That I would try to do, but I'd probably do it differently. Maybe put out something like a 40 to 60 page comic for $1.
Yeah,
and it's all the first 8 to 16 pages of a trade, and if people like it, they'll buy the trade.
Oh, by the way, I saw that that Death Dealer. That Death Dealer book I got, I forget who the company is now. But they're gonna something I always said was a cool idea that they're actually doing, but I don't need to get it because I have all the Death Dealer issues with the covers in them. They're putting out an issue. They're putting out a comic that's all the Death Dealer, just all the covers from the Death Dealer alternate covers. So, and I always said, like, Marvel or DC should do that. They should put out like a monthly comic of all their best covers in a comic. I was like, that's something I would be interested in. It's like, if it wasn't for the fact that I already have all those covers in the actual Death Dealer, because one of the things that makes me buy the Death Dealer comic is they publish all the alternate covers in the back. To me, that's a draw. And it's a $5. And if you remember at the beginning of buying that, I was always like, I kind of like it, but is it a $5 comic? Those covers are part of what makes it a $5 comic for me. But if you just want because I'm a sucker for any book that's just about comic book covers, because I love the art form of comic book. I have to cut back on individuals and buy more trade paperbacks, graphic novels, and hardcovers. I like to read the run, Opus. Yeah, the Death Dealer run is a lot better than I thought it would be. Beats the hell out of Dynamite books. Yeah, it's. I was surprised at how well Death Dealer was done. It's a good comic. And then, who would think that they can make a licensed comic out of one painting by Frank Frazetta and it would be good? Because like you said, most of those licensed Dynamite books are pretty darn mediocre. That one's not I can't remember the Death. Hold on, I'm going to look up the company right now. I'm going to walk over to my D section, look up Death Dealer. It says Opus. Oh yeah, Opus. That's what he was saying. Duh. I didn't even recognize the name as Opus right here as he was saying it. It's Opus is the publisher. Mm-hmm.
Next week, I'm going to get together with a friend of mine on YouTube, and we've had over the years we've had some newspaper associated sales collections of comics, like one with the entire Star Wars run, which was gigantic, but there are a few with Marvel and DC, and there was one with some. They had something. The theme was the best world's graphic novels, and they had a Mr. Natural book, as well as V for Vendetta and two Jiro Taniguchi graphic novels and a few French one shots. And a few months ago, my friend asked me, "What if we tried to do that with a collection for independent comics, not indies,
right?
But some stuff that was created from the minor publishers that could come out as a newspaper collection. I've been trying to think what I could put in that collection, but they have to be one-shot stories.
Okay.
You can do something like a 6-issue mini, but they have to do one-shot stories. You can have a comic like Nexus,
right?
That goes on.
Mm-hmm.
which unfortunately something like Usagi Yojimbo out of the equation, because I can put it in that collection. I would have to do a Usagi collection, and I'm not sure that it would work as a theme.
There's plenty of Usagi done in ones.
Yeah.
You could actually, that's one you could actually use. The most Usagi is done in ones,
right,
over the years. Matter of fact, especially the beginning stuff, they're having trouble coming up, like the Lone Goat and Kid collection. The one of the last ones they put up. He was only in the last issue. And by the way, you just mentioned Mr. Natural. We should mention Aileen Kaminsky Crumb died this week.
Oh yeah.
Robert Crumb's wife and cartoonist in her own right. I haven't read a ton of her stuff. Have you read much of her stuff?
I've never read anything.
Never read anything?
Nope.
How about you, Chris? Have you ever read any of her stuff?
No.
Yeah, it was amazing to me how few people on my Facebook mentioned her dying.
Yeah,
my Facebook is full of comic book people, of course.
Yeah, I saw it on the comic book historians group. Bob Beerbohm put it there.
Yeah.
But I knew she did stuff, but I've always just thought of Aileen Kaminsky as Robert Crumb's wife.
Yeah. Well, he met her because they were both kind of underground cartoonists in the early 70s. And she's sort of influential on women in cartooning too. She was one of these people who showed women that women can be cartoonists and can draw ugly things about themselves too. Her work isn't pretty and it isn't about being pretty. Like I said, I've read some of it, but I've never really gotten into her stuff. But I have to say, I haven't. Only in the last, I don't know, 15 years have I really gotten into Crumb's stuff too. Only really since the Book of Genesis came out did I really get into more of Crumb's stuff, and I still haven't read a ton of it. I've always had some around, but he was never like a favorite. But the Book of Genesis really blew me away and made me read more of his stuff. And I read some of the stuff they did together, but I haven't run a ton of her stuff by herself. Read some of her stuff in women's comics in the 80s. Crumb and Kaminsky did a lot of comics together, which is most of her work that I've seen. Me too, I think. That's what I liked about Valentino, 30 years of Image books last year. It was fun looking at the covers and one person's take on being there for all the major events. All the blood of I don't think I've seen that 30 years of Image book. Keep in mind, I liked it because I found it for $2. That helps sometimes. A cheap price can really help me appreciate a book. Yeah, but I think Aileen Kaminsky Crumb isn't really that well known among mainstream comics people. I mean, Crumb is because, and even he's not that, he's well known because he's that famous. But I don't know many people who know a lot about Crumb's work.
What'll be, Crumb's more famous stuff would be what? Fritz the Cat?
Mr. Natural, like you mentioned before.
Mm-hmm.
Anything, Weirdo, Zap Comics.
Well, Fritz the Cat would be known because of the movie.
Right.
So it's not a mainstream movie, but it has mainstream appeal because it's not a comic. It's the movie based on the comic.
I would think that of all the comic people I know, that I would think the biggest Crumb fans among them have 3 or 4 Crumb books on their shelf. I don't know anyone with the complete Robert Crumb sketchbooks or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Which is how he got that house in France, I think. I wonder if he'll move back to the States now or he'll probably stay in France because he's not that energetic. Because it was Aileen who made them move to France, according to the movie. He would have just stayed there. Where was he in San Francisco?
I think so.
I'll have to rewatch that movie. I haven't seen it in 20 years. Have you seen the movie, Paulo and Chris?
No.
Oh, it's good. Watch it sometime.
I saw it probably right when it came out. So
yeah,
like over 20 years ago.
It really is a good movie.
I mean, I think that's where I learned everything about him. I don't think I knew a thing about him before that.
Okay. Julie Doucette's topics remind me of Comiskey's subject matter a bit. Yeah, she was probably an inspiration for Julie Doucette, I would say. I would say so. I think they have similar approaches. They're sort of not interested in drawing pretty, letting it all hang out. Semi-autobiographical comics that make them look bad for the sense of humor. But yeah, and there was one other topic I wrote down in my book that got me thinking this week. What was it? Trash comics. I think I've mentioned him before, but you guys don't know him. Don the Comic Book Junkie. YouTuber. I've been watching him for years. He makes haul videos. Lives down in Florida. I think he cuts meat. Some kind of butcher at a supermarket. But he loves dollar books. He's the kind of guy who, I think his collection, I mean, it was a few years ago he gave us the total on his collection. I think it was around 25,000 comics. So he's got a big collection. He's got a big room with all sorts of comics in it. And he's always like, he just sewed off a haul this week he found some guy at a flea market who he gets books for 33 cents a piece from. And he loves collecting runs of stuff. Like, I think one of the things he showed off this week was he got a couple of those DC TSR books, runs of them, the Dragonlance, and I forget what the other one was. He made a whole video being annoyed with people who called them trash books. He's like, and he was like, I don't care. He's like, if you don't like the books, just walk. He was because I guess he saw videos where people, there are people who walk by the dollar bins. They're like trash books. Those are just trash books. He's like, if you don't care about the dollar bins, just walk by them. You don't have to call them trash books. I like them. And that got me thinking. I think they're trash books too. But a lot of that is sour grapes. In that, if I had my druthers, and I was like the idle rich, I would have a warehouse with every comic book I could find in it.
Yeah.
I'd just be like, one of the reasons I don't like, let's say, the Dragonlance series from the 80s is I don't want to spend, I don't have the time, especially as you get older, time gets more limited. Space is more limited. Money is more limited. So part of the reasons I think they're trash books is sour grapes. Technically they're 33 cents a piece. Technically I could have them, but I don't want to make the space and time for them. So I just go, I'm not interested in them because I generally am not. But like I said, if space and money and time were unlimited, I'd buy every comic book I could find. I'd have fun putting them in order on my library shelves in my warehouse. I'd maybe go, hey, let's look at these Dragonlance books today. And maybe I wouldn't read them and love them, but I'd go, oh, Rags Morales did a lot of these. Interesting. I wonder what he did. I'd contemplate them at least. It's like, because I like even bad comics. Even bad comics, even if I won't buy them, even if I think they're trash comics, on some level, I still like them. How many comics would you have if space was unlimited?
Yeah.
Well, who wouldn't answer all of them? Space Unlimited.
I don't know.
How many comics?
People who think those are trash comics, I imagine, wouldn't answer. Would not answer. People who only want CGC 9.8s.
These are taking up space in my infinite space.
Right. They don't want to think about what they call trash comics. They only want to think about comics that are valuable.
Let me put it this way to you. I would have the gold key superheroes if I had infinite space.
Now, a lot of people collect those just because they're interesting.
Yeah, I know. The guys from the Fossils collect them.
I would say more people collect those gold key superheroes than collect 80s DC Dungeons and Dragons comics.
Right.
Uh-oh, comic crack. Did I just hear slabs? Yes, Mr. Slab.
Yes. Exactly. Time to slap those street poet rays. And watch
comic
the
crack
price
is
go
only
up.
interested in slabs. But I was thinking, yeah, I think you can accuse me of thinking some comics are trash comics, but it's really, I think a lot of it has to do with sour grapes, has to do with I cut those off in my mind because I don't have the space in life to be interested in them. But if I had the space in life, I'd be interested in them because they're comics. I never really thought about that before. Because there are comics I've thrown in the trash, or at least gotten rid of, I've brought comics to my comic shop and said, here, you just have these because they're worthless. And they sold them for pennies on the dollar. Which is, I think, I was sitting there wondering, like, his being that Don the comic book junkie is buying these comics for 33 cents a piece. The guy must be getting them for a dime a piece. And it brought me back to Barry Dutter, who I used to work with at Marvel. He was an editor who now deals comics in California. He buys and sells comics, but he, buys and sells more expensive, not super expensive comics, but comics he can make a buck on. He'd rather buy $100 comics and make $25 on it than buy $100 comics and try to make $25 on it. It's just, and he said something about, so he goes and looks at collections a lot and makes offers on collections. Don the comic book junkie is still around. He's still making haul videos, and he's still buying comics. And he makes Blu-ray and DVD haul videos. And I'm still watching them. I've had him on I've been watching Don the comic book junkie haul videos for nearly a decade now. But one of the things Barry said, like, he goes to make offers on collections. He's in Southern California. He also goes to Vegas and anywhere else around. And he said, but like he would like to cherry pick a collection. If you give him a collection, he wants all the $50 books out of it. He doesn't want the dollar books.
It's almost like he's only in it for the money, like kind of like a
this
dealer.
Is what I mean. This is what I'm getting to. He said, and he would occasionally go and say, oh, this whole collection, there's, 10 copies of all these books from the 90s. So it's obviously overstock from a comic book store in the 90s that went out of business. And he's like, that's the stuff that the flea market guys buy. And that made me say, that's why this guy is selling these books for 33 cents a piece. or he's got a dollar bin, but if you buy more, they're even less. Because he's buying, the flea market guys go and buy 10 long boxes of comics for $10 a piece. So they're getting those comics for pennies. So they're happy to sell them for 33 cents a piece. They're like, they're Don the Comic Book Junkie is giving them $80 for 150 comics that they paid $4 for. So they're like, all right, that volume is how they do their business when you got a flea market thing. So I was like, that's who's buying those books and selling them for 33 cents a piece. Don's found one of those flea market guys. I view a lot of dollar bin trash comics like B movies. So bad it's good. Conan movies just like a New Universe Mark Savage. Plus the cost and beat up quality. Way better than a new $5 book. I can understand that. I mean, when you can go to I enjoyed this book. It was fine, but it's not worth $5. If I paid $2 for it, I'd be happier. If I paid $1 for it, I'd be thrilled. Paid $5 for it, it's like, I'm not getting another one. But that's the price you pay for buying new comics. Is I'm gonna buy a lot of $4 and $5 comics I don't like. And that's how I have to find the good ones. That's like my guy Dan at the flea market. He's got unreal prices on stuff for that exact reason. Buys in bulk. Yeah. Doesn't care what's in the boxes. Isn't cherry picking anything. It's up to his customers to cherry pick. They put in the work to get the bargains. He's just selling bulk comics. So it's a different business model. It's a different thing. But they're both in it for the money, Chris.
It's like all anybody cares about is how to make money so you can live.
I tell you. They don't care about art at all. They don't care about passion. They don't care about drawing people with super deformed heads. They don't even know what super deformed is anymore. I wonder when that fell out of fashion. When did super deformed become chibi or whatever they call it now? Because in the 90s, the Japanese stuff that was coming over with the cartoon characters with the big heads were called super deformed characters. Mm-hmm. So if you took Batman and made him into a chibi, it was called making a super deformed Batman. And I wonder if that was a literal translation of whatever the Japanese called it. Because it kind of sounds like it. Or did the Japanese just come up with an English version? Because they do that sometimes. They name things in English. Because it sounds cool.
I don't know.
I figured it just got rebranded because chibi sounds cute.
Yeah.
And you're looking at the super deformed stuff is cute.
Right.
Whereas super deformed those words kind of imply something like something
it doesn't
repulsive.
Tell you. It doesn't sound cute. You're right. I can understand that it changed, but I wonder if the change was on purpose or by accident. That's what I don't know. I like to contemplate language sometimes.
Like sports.
Sports. There we go. Oh, speaking of language, I also got Damn Them All. Issue number 2. The Charles Adler book. I enjoyed the first issue, but I got to say, I don't know if it was because I was overtired or this was boring, but I was nodding off reading this. There are a lot of balloons here. And a text page and a lot of balloons. And I'm going to read it a second time to see. But I think I liked the first issue better than the second. Simon Spurrier's got to up his game here because Charlie Adler is doing some nice art and storytelling. But darn, cut down on those words or make them interesting. One or the other. Because I was literally nodding off as I was reading this. Like I said, could be because I've been sick. And I'm, not up to snuff yet, not fully full strength. But I'm going to give it a second read later on in the week. And if I fall asleep during the second time, I'm going to be upset. It's already on my pull list, though. So it doesn't really matter if I fall asleep to this issue. There's another one coming. What comics have you fallen asleep during?
I don't fall asleep reading comics.
I usually don't either, but today I did, or yesterday.
And if I'm sleepy, I don't think the comic's too bad.
I was not. This is the middle of the afternoon. First of all, I wasn't going to bed. This is the middle of the afternoon, and I wasn't sleepy when I started reading the comic. I was sleepy halfway through.
Did you eat a heavy lunch?
As it could be just because, like I said, I've had this sinus affection just went away, so my sleep hasn't been perfect. So I could have just been tired, and I have been known to take a nap in the middle of the afternoon, so that's not unusual. But usually not while reading a comic. But we'll have to see. There have been comics I've put down because I'm too tired to read them. That's not unusual. But with this one, I was like, no, I just want to keep reading. The words start blurring. I start nodding. No, I'm like, I gotta put this down. I think the comic is putting me to sleep. But the unsung hero of comics, Charlie Adler, his art is looking very good in this one.
Is he unsung?
I think he is because I call him the unsung hero of comics because how many issues of The Walking Dead did he draw in a row? The hottest book in comics and Kirkman gets all the credit and hardly anyone mentions Adler. That's why I think he's unsung.
Well, I mean, what you're saying is more kind of that's just the way all comics are, but I thought everybody knew who Charlie Adler was.
No, I don't think so. I think everybody knows who Robert Kirkman is, but almost nobody can name Charlie Adler.
How about Ryan Otley?
No, I don't think so. How old? Yeah. Well, maybe now that he's drawn. How old is Paulo and how old is Jared? I am 56. Paulo's 40 something, right?
I'm going to be 43 in 2 weeks' time.
Oh,
it'll be on a Friday.
And Paulo stays up much later than I do, but I never stayed up late. I've always been a morning person.
I used to be a morning person. My especially when I was a kid, my parents always wondered why I woke up at 7:00 on Saturdays and Sundays. The answer was obvious: cartoons.
Friar
but
Tuck.
I always, but you never had to get me out of bed. They said, "Come on, today we're visiting Grandma." They didn't have any problem getting me out of bed. The thing is, I wanted to watch cartoons. I didn't want to visit Grandma.
Right. Friar Tuck, I get up at 5 every day for work and fall asleep in my chair watching Mannix at around 7 for about half an hour. I get up at 5:55 every day. For work or not. I get up that time. 7 days a week. You know what's funny? I would say as time went by, I have got since like let's say 1990 after I graduated college, I've gotten up 5 minutes earlier every year. I can remember when I first graduated college and had to get up in the morning didn't have a job to get up for, had to get up and do my own thing. I was like, well, if I get up at 8, I can be at my drawing board by 9. 8 was way too late. So I started getting up at 7. And then and I was up at 7 for many years, except if I had to commute into the city, I was up even earlier. But it's like every year went from like 7, 6:55, 6:50, 6:45 until now I'm at like 5:55. And I hear my alarm about half a dozen times a year. Every other time I'm just up. Just like boom. I sleep my alarm goes off at 6. I hear it 6 times a year. So that's just, I'm just a morning person. Age could have something to do with falling asleep. I was falling asleep in my 20s. Matter of fact, one of my favorite things to do in my 20s when I was tired is on a sunshiny day, like a beautiful sunshiny summer day, windows open, breeze blowing through. For me, a nap is maybe half an hour to 45 minutes. Any longer than 45 minutes, and you may as well go to bed. So I would, like on a sunny afternoon, I would put on some long movie and sleep on the couch and kind of drift in and out of it for about half an hour, 45 minutes, and wake up. And one of my favorite movies to take a nap to, I always say this, 2001: A Space Odyssey is a great movie to take a nap to because it's so sort of quiet and pleasing. And you can fall asleep during any time during the movie. You can turn the movie on and watch the first hour and then fall asleep for half an hour and then watch the next, It's like at any time during it, you can fall asleep. You can watch it for a little while, fall asleep, drift in and out, and wake up and watch it again. And even, when you're done, turn it off. You've seen the end before. Just turn it off when you're done. Get up and do your thing. That was one of my favorite things to do in my 20s. I don't think I've done it since then on a sunny summer. For some reason, I stopped doing, I didn't need those. Some reason in my 20s, I needed those afternoon summer naps. I don't anymore. Have you ever been a nap person, Paolo?
No.
No? How about you, Chris?
Yeah, I remember for a spell like falling asleep at Marvel a lot. And one day Dave Sharp actually like one time Mike Martz was like working on a cover with me. And like we're going over like, okay, change the logo to this, move it this way or whatever. So I'm just like doing all the things he's asking me for. And like in the middle of that, I fell asleep.
I don't know if that counts as taking a nap. Falling asleep at work means you're not getting enough sleep at night.
Well, what ended up happening was I was like, man, every day after lunch I crash like hard. Like it's like I can't resist it. And I'll be asleep for like 10 minutes. And then I'm like, okay, now I'm fine.
Yeah.
Which is weird because if I'm taking usually like what you just said, if I take a nap, like it's just like you might as well just go to bed.
Yeah.
And then Dave Sharp told me, yeah, it might be that ramen noodle, that cup of soup, that ramen stuff with the MSG in it.
Yeah, MSG makes me sleepy.
And I've said this to some people, and they go, "Oh, that's just a myth. That's not true. That's actually just BS. That they say that stuff about MSG completely untrue." I'm like, all right. All I know is that Dave Sharp said it might be the MSG in those cup of noodles you keep eating. So maybe try something else for lunch.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately it was a change.
Yeah. Well, it's not that MSG makes me sleepy. It's that MSG isn't bad for you. There was a whole big thing in the early 90s where people were saying that MSG is really bad for you, health-wise. And a lot of places had, Chinese places had no MSG in their sign or whatever. But it first of all, being a morning person, about 2 or 3 o'clock, I start to crash. I get sleepy anyway. But if I had something with MSG on it for lunch at Marvel, I had to stop doing it too. I would have to fight hard not to literally fall asleep at 3 p.m.
Yeah.
It wasn't my normal getting low energy and sleepy. I would be like, holy cow, I'm going to fall asleep right here, right now. I can barely keep my eyes open.
Yeah, I remember, the struggle.
Right.
Struggling to stay, like, why is this happening?
Only if I had MSG. So I stopped eating it, and it was fine. So it's not that it doesn't make you sleepy. It's that it's not bad for you, but it might make you sleepy.
Well, I think it's all in my head.
No, it's not all in my head. I know that. I did it enough times to know. Friday talk. I love naps since my teens. Chris could have had narcolepsy.
I do come from the region in Portugal where they make jokes about people being lazy because they take naps after lunch, which kind of happens because you have 110 degrees temperatures in the summer, and nobody's going to work the fields at that time.
Right. We used to have one woman we worked with, Erica Moran, used to sleep at her desk at lunchtime. She used to, at lunchtime, she had a drawing table like this, but it was tilted up pretty far. It was a pretty steep angle. She used to just put her arms at the bottom of it and fall asleep at lunchtime. Matter of fact, I used to take pictures of her asleep. So she'd be sleeping like this at lunchtime, and I'd come up with my camera and just snap a picture. I have a bunch one day was like, you can put a calendar together with all the pictures you have of Erica sleeping. I was like, yeah, I got about 12 of them, I think. And then there was Thomas, who used to fall asleep in the middle of the day in the Marvel bullpen because he'd stay up too late. He was one of these people who would fight sleep. And he had been there at Marvel for a good long time then. So he was like, he was kind of just like over the job. He was just like, I don't want to be here. I want to be somewhere else. And so this happens with a lot of people. It was kind of like he would, get up in the morning, go to work, come home at night, do whatever, be with his girlfriend, hang out. Everybody else would go to bed, and then that was his time. So for some like 11 o'clock till, I don't know, 2 in the morning, he'd try to stay up as late as he could. That was his time where he could play video games, do whatever. That was, his time of the day. But of course, he always stayed up till late. And then the next day was just exhausted, and he'd drag in and sometimes fall asleep at his desk in the middle of the day. And one time he came in and he was like, my mother slipped me a Mickey. It's like, what? She started making him tea at night. And then she started, because she was worried about him not sleeping, started giving him sleepy time tea, which supposedly has stuff in you that makes you drowsy. So he was going to sleep earlier until he found out his mother was slipping him a Mickey, giving him sleepy time tea. So he stopped drinking it.
Who the hell still says slip me a Mickey?
Hey, still, it was 1992. We were still saying that all the time.
1992, not 1932.
There was an episode of Seinfeld, though, where that became...
Yeah.
Oh, Seinfeld brought it back.
Classic episode. Okay. I'm going to slip him a Mickey. And they're going back and forth. I can't even believe... Where do you even get a Mickey? I can't believe I'm saying Mickey.
That could have been it, too. The bullpen's coolometer, MSG equals uncool. I remember that in bullpen bulletins. Did you ever get mentioned in the coolometer, Chris?
I don't believe it existed while I was working there.
Oh, okay. It may have been earlier than you were there. It was just something that was in the bullpen's bulletin page on occasion for a few months, maybe. And sometimes people in the office would get mentioned as saying something was cool or uncool, or being cool or uncool. I can't remember what years it was.
It's probably good for morale.
You know what? They had to look for things to fill up those pages.
That's how I got my career started.
Yeah, that is true. All right, another comic I got this week is The Approach. This one is by The Reason I Bought It, written by Jeremy Juan, who did Red Mother and The Beauty. Written by Jeremy Juan and Jason A. Hurley, illustrated by Jesus Hervas, Herva accent S. Accent over the A, by the way. Leah Caballero, colored by Brett Weddle, and more lettering by Ed Dukeshire. So how do we say Hervas with an accent over the S, the accent going up?
Hervas.
Hervas? Hervas. This, I liked the first. I put this one on my pull list sight unseen because I liked Red Mother so much. And so far, it's, the movie The Thing?
Mm-hmm.
That's what this is. It's a horror story like that. The first issue, these people, it's a small, out-of-the-way airport that's snowed in somewhere. I forget where in the country, but it's out of the way. It's like, it's not near anything. It's a small airport. And so, a plane had an emergency land there because there's a blizzard, so all the people are there. And then in the first issue, all of a sudden, this small, Cessna came out of nowhere. They're like, holy cow, what is this plane? Where did it come from? And it crashed on the runway. The pilot died. They brought in this one guy barely alive. And then they found out this plane went missing 27 years ago. The guy they dragged in who was barely alive turns into a monster. And then the monster eats somebody at the end of the book. And then in this one, they're kind of trying to figure out what's going on. And they finally decide to they're going to try and hunt down the monster. The one guy shot the monster a few times, but it just ran away. So they don't think it's dead. So it like I said, it's like The Thing when they were trapped in Antarctica in that station with a monster. These guys are trapped in an airport with a monster. But it was solid. Not as intriguing as Red Mother, but solidly done. There's the monster. Not the most interestingly drawn monster, but this cover monster is much more interesting. Maybe he'll show up. But usually, this is from Boom Studios. Usually these are only miniseries anyway, so even if it's only just okay, it'll be over soon. But I have faith in Jeremy Juan's writing to pull it off because I've liked other things he's done. He used to be an artist, too. I forget what he drew. Did he draw Paradox? I reread it I don't know, must be 5 years ago now. It's from the it was an early 2000s Image book. I think Jeremy Juan might have been the artist on it, but don't quote me. And there was a writer, and it only ran about 8 issues. It was black and white. I think the writer was British because it took place in London. And it was kind of this 8-issue real experimental storytelling that was about what is reality and what is the nature of reality, and these characters sort of interreacting in this sort of other world going on. And it was one of those comics that was an interesting failure. And after about 8 issues, they kind of abandoned it. But I still remember that one. It was good. It was, it was an interesting failure. It was ambitious too. You don't see a lot of comics as ambitious as it was. They didn't just want to tell you a story. They wanted to question the nature of things. Have you ever read any Jeremy Juan stuff? Like I said, I think he did some superhero stuff too. He drew it in sort of this really graphic designy style, if I'm remembering correctly. But but he turned over into a writer in the last decade or so. Guess there's more money in comic book writing than drawing.
If you want to work for the majors, might as well write.
Yeah. No doubt about that. That's who they like. They like the writers. Are you ever tempted to become a writer, Chris?
I think about it a lot. Like, I think I should be writing down stuff more.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I'm always telling myself, "Oh yeah, I got. You know what? I should write this. I should write some stuff," and then I just never do.
Because Smitty's been writing a lot. Of course, he's writing for you.
Yep.
So how could you get yourself to write? You don't know. It's too busy drawing.
Yeah, I mean, it's like once suddenly it's like, okay, well, here's a big project we throw in your lap, and it's hard to. It's like one thing that's taking up all my time. It's you go, oh, maybe after this.
You need a bullet point journal, which has done me no good, but it's kind of cool. Matter of fact, most of this journal is I write down things I want to remember for this show. That's what all this is. If I think of something during the week that I want to talk about, I write it down here. But the beginning of it, I originally got this to try bullet point journaling. Matter of fact, I got it 1/1/20. I started it, and the thing is, I really don't need bullet point journaling because.
What do you mean bullet point journaling?
I'll explain it in a second. It's to help you get things done. And I actually don't need help getting things done.
You talking about making lists?
I'm pretty good at getting things done. So what you're supposed to do with bullet point journaling is you are supposed to every day or two, who knows, you're only writing in bullet points. So like 1/4/20, I have down Saturday, unsure of what to do. Didn't get a lot done. Rain ride, read a lot. Photos ×2. I need to focus on projects. Those are my 4 bullet points. And you're supposed to do this every day. And then at the end of the month, you look at your bullet points and you see the most important things you need to get done there. And you move those to the beginning of that month and you write down those bullet points. Those are the things you're going to get done. And then the rest, you try to get those stuff done because it's the most important stuff in the month before. And then you write down other bullet points each day. My bullet points are start cartoon art cards. I don't really need that as a book.
So it just sounds like you're making a list.
Yeah, you're making that's what a bullet point. It's a list. A bullet points are lists.
All right, I've done that forever.
Okay, but you're supposed to do it in a certain way in order, like you don't have trouble getting things done either. So you don't need a bullet point journal really. But it's for people who have trouble getting things done. It's kind of a list. But like I said, it's a specific way to make a list.
Oh, you gotta just keep track of you got to keep track of projects and stuff. And so
yes, I know.
You write them down.
Right, but this is for.
I never knew I had invented the bullet point list.
But you're going to work on those projects. This is for people who write down, who don't ever work on those projects, who want to get stuff done, like you said, writing, but never get stuff done. That's who needs to bullet point journal. Not me, it turns out. But I tried it anyway, just for the heck of it.
The webcomic forces me to write.
Yeah.
Like I decided, like, I'm going to do this. I'll do once a week. I'm not going to kill myself on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of times I'm just like, geez, like I wish I didn't have to do this, but like just because I turned it into a thing that I have to do.
Well, that's where I was just explaining to one of my students that you have to make habits work for you. Habit is a powerful thing. And as my grandmother used to say, you can make, or it was my Uncle Johnny, I can't remember which now. You can make good habits as easy as bad habits. So writing that strip every week is now a habit for you, so you can't not write it. That's how you get things done. I have my comic strip written. I'm right now working on 2024 comic strips that I'm writing. My 5-day-a-week one, just because I started writing every day. And the strip only runs 5 days a week. So every week I was getting 2 extra strips done. And then I stopped writing for 3 months because I had so many strips done. But wow. It's such a habit and that I just have to do it. So I keep doing it. Sleepy Reader says bad habits seem to come more naturally. They actually don't, but they may come more unconsciously. If you're conscious of making good habits, then they're not actually hard. What it is I think our subconscious makes the bad habits. And you have to consciously make the good ones. But they're not actually hard to make. Once you just have to do something enough times that it becomes a habit. I don't know how many times that is. But that's one of the things it's actually not hard to do, make good habits. But people don't know that. Coming on this show every Friday night is kind of a habit. It's fun. It's a fun habit. It's like if I don't come on this show, or if I don't have the show, if I'm not around one week, I'm like, I feel bad. Because doing the show makes me feel good. So it's like Friday night, here comes a show. Why not? Hang out with Paulo and Chris. Have a good time. You hardly ever mention your daily strip. To be honest, I thought you stopped doing it years ago. Yeah, that's because no one reads it. I've given up trying to promote it. I've been doing it for 12 years, and I pretty much do it for myself now. Because nobody ever read it. So I just I do it because what else am I going to do? I started it because I wanted something of my own. I wanted a comic thing of my own that I could have behind me, kind of. And that's why I keep doing that. And I've got it down where it doesn't take me a lot of time each week. And I love writing it. So I do it for myself. Could have sworn I saw Chris on the Coolometer in a random old issue I was looking at recently. Well, if you can find it, you let us know.
I bet you it was Chris Iliopoulos.
Could have been. Yeah, I was never. You are the original art for art's sake artist. I sure am. It was funny. I was speaking of, I never mentioned my daily strip. I saw there's a guy on TikTok who's a pawn shop guy. And he's got a pretty big TikTok following being a pawn shop guy. And he was showing off, he usually shows off all his pawn shop stuff. And he says one of the things he doesn't deal in is art because it's too hard to deal in art. But he says, but he does speculate in art sometimes. And he's explaining to us what he meant by that. And he means he buys pieces he likes to decorate his shop that also might go up in value someday. But he's really buying it because he likes it, and it's inexpensive. So he was showing this one artist. He's like, this one artist just sent me this painting of my logo. He's like, he's an artist he saw on Instagram or something. And he's like, and I speculate on it. And he had like a couple of paintings from this guy. He's like, I speculate on this guy's art because, I like his style. He's on social media. And one of the things he said is he really gets social media. And I'm like, we all get social media. It's just that no one pays attention to most of us. The algorithm doesn't bless us. Getting social media isn't the problem. We all understand social media is a way to reach people and connect with possible customers and art lovers. It's just that if the algorithm doesn't bless you, no one ever sees you. Sure, you could run an ad campaign, but that's no guarantee of anything. And most of the people who become popular on social media never ran an ad campaign. So I'm just like, gets social media? I don't know. Maybe I don't get it.
Yeah, I just assume I'm bad at it.
But what leads you to believe you're bad at it? The fact that no one pays attention.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you're bad at it. That means that there's no rhyme or reason to someone who gets paid attention to and someone who doesn't on social media.
Spoken like someone who's not getting enough attention on social media.
Exactly. That could be it too. That's why I'm always like,
Yeah, I just think like, there's ways to do this, and I've given up. I'm not trying any harder than I'm trying now. Like,
Sleepy Reader, social media was more useful before everyone understood it. Like, here's an example. My tape peeling videos, which I've been posting on Instagram for a couple of years now. Maybe bad at marketing. Well, there's a reason that companies have marketing teams and marketing budgets. That's a different thing than an individual going on social media and becoming popular. That's not necessarily marketing. That's if the algorithm blesses you or not. And there's no way to make the algorithm. I've seen enough people on TikTok say, I used to be popular, now TikTok doesn't show any of my videos. And they've gone from 20,000 views and likes to 160 views and likes. That's what happens when the algorithm stops blessing you. Not sure how to market ones. Nobody is. The only people who are sure are the people who the algorithm blesses and get popular.
If I was a better person, the algorithm would bless me. I'm not a good enough person.
I think that's the only explanation. I don't get well. I was saying the tape peeling videos, which I was posting on Instagram, and it was right before Reels hit. I was posting them as stories, or I was posting them on my feed, and anything on my feed gets 20 likes from my friends. I've got 800 followers that it's taken me a decade to get. And that's it. But then they put Reels up. And I was like, well, let's try putting, and Instagram was really pushing Reels. Matter of fact, they say if you post photos on Instagram now, no one ever sees them. Because Instagram does not care about photos anymore. They don't put them on anybody's feed. So I posted these Reels, and it's just me peeling the tape off the edges of a drawing. First the edges had over, I would just go over I would mask out the edges with tape so I could ink right over the top of the edges and not have to worry about my borders getting ink all over them. And at the end, I would pull off the tape and my borders would be clean. So one day I was like, you know what? Why don't I video this? Because it's kind of satisfying. And other people thought so too when I post them. So like I said, 20, 30 views. If I get 100 views, it's like, wow, this one went viral. I got 100 views. So when Reels started and they started pushing Reels, I posted some on my Reels, and all of a sudden my Reel would get 6,000, 10,000, 15,000 views and 100 likes or whatever, 200 likes. And I'd be like, holy cow. And that got me 40 new subscribers, maybe. And I'd post one a day, and they'd get, that, and then the views slowly went down. I could tell that I went from 60. I peaked at like 20,000 views for like 3 days, and now if I post one, still way more than any of my other stuff, it'll get me maybe 1,000 views. But no one subscribes, no one comments, no one likes. There's no interaction with them. So it's not something that, I obviously don't understand social media, because I had 15,000 views on one tape pulling thing, and then nothing happened. It translated into nothing. Don't ask me why. I got links to my Patreon and all my stuff. They could go there. No one cares.
What do you put in a Patreon?
I put all my sketches and things, all my preliminary stuff, and I talk to people there. I've got about 4 patrons, I think, right now.
The idea is that
everyone talks about. Go ahead.
No, the idea is that your patrons pay for you to exist, and then you reward them with cool exclusive stuff.
Right. All your reels are the same paint pulling trick. Yeah, different drawings. You reveal the drawing at the end too. But yeah, people like the pulling the tape. People like the pulling the tape off. They like to see the dirty become clean. A lot of people that are like, wow, that is so satisfying. It's hypnotizing. So yeah, it's the same thing. And why do you show dice pictures? I can never figure out how dice promote. It doesn't. I started more of my friends. The dice pictures are because I started collecting dice in the 90s. I have this big pile of dice. This is the small one. This is the small one that's on top of the big tile. And as I sit there and watch TV, I started out on like the arm of the chair, but now my arm of the chair. So on my fingers like this, I make color compositions. I just play with color with the dice. I put them in patterns. It's just something I do to pass the time and think about color. And I like the colors, and I like manipulating it. It's an artist thing. And then one day I was like, you know what? I should just take pictures of this. So I just started taking pictures of the dice on my fingers. And then one day I was like, you know what? I should post these pictures on Instagram. Why not? And I've got thousands of these pictures. I usually post one a day if I can. And I've got thousands of these pictures now. I don't even post all the ones I've made. But more of my friends like and come up to me and talk about the dice pictures than any of my artwork I've ever posted. I'm just like, okay, I'll keep doing it. But I find that that goes to show you never know. I had no idea it was a color composition.
You know Erica Henderson, the artist?
Yes. I follow her strip. I'm on my third time reading through it. No, that's not Erica Henderson. That's someone else. But yes, I know Erica Henderson.
She posted something. Now she's very popular.
Yes.
On Twitter.
Is she the Moon Girl?
She was Squirrel Girl.
Squirrel Girl. Okay. She might have done Moon Girl too. I don't remember.
But she tweeted one time the same thing, like, okay, here's a piece of art that I slaved over for, whatever,
yeah.
And then that gets you like 10 likes. She posted a picture of a young Jim Varney, Ernest, I think.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, yeah, I posted a picture of young Jim Varney saying Ernest can get it, and I get like 10 million likes.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the what is it called? The law of attraction. Not the one that's about think things into reality, but the one that says the more you have of something, the more you can get of it. One of the best ways to get popular is to latch on to something that's already popular.
Well, no. The point is that she was already. To me,
but
it was
she
interesting
wasn't
because
as
she's
popular as Jim Varney. But I know what she means. I know what she means. You never know. Yeah.
She wasn't riding the coattails of deceased Jim Varney.
I'm just saying. Well, the reason she got popular was Squirrel Girl. I mean, work for Marvel, you'll get more popular because Marvel is popular than if you don't. That's what I mean about that. But Jim Varney, but I know what you mean in that a throwaway thing can get you. You never know more likes than something.
It's also if you post the same kind of thing all the time, like
right.
people come to expect, like, oh, it's another beautiful piece of artwork from Erica, and you don't even you stop registering it, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, here's something different. What's she talking about? Wow, yeah, that guy is he actually is incredibly handsome.
I don't even think that it's something different. It's that you don't know what people are going to respond to. Like, pictures of cute 21-year-old women get way more likes than art. Because that's what people like, Sometimes you don't have to work at all.
Yeah, sometimes like when you and I are cute 21-year-old ladies.
Yes. Rogue Sun is the last book of the week I got. Issue number 8. The Massive Verse. Decent superhero story. That's about all I have to say to it. Wasn't a great issue, but it was okay. I've read better issues of Rogue Sun. Those thumbs up for Jim Varney were probably mostly not her regular followers. Yeah. Yeah, all of a sudden, like I said, Jim Varney is more popular than she is, so that had something to do with it. But you never, like I said, you never know.
I think they were her regular followers. I think because she has so many followers. That's the point. It's like there's all these people following her.
Because you said 10 million, mister. I don't think she has 10 million followers.
I have exaggerated.
You may have.
You have gotten me. Yep. I am busted.
Yeah, well, actually, when you said 10 million, I thought, more than her regular followers clicked on it.
And so I mean, and she also, I mean, that's just the thing I'm thinking of because she actually made the observation herself.
Right. I've seen others make that observation too. That frustrating observation where, worked for 16 hours on this piece and got 4 likes. Posted a picture of my cat and got 1,000.
Well, I think she's doing more than fine.
Yeah, she doesn't have to worry. She's okay. It's Chris Geruso who has to worry. He's not getting enough likes.
Mm-hmm. It's because I'm not a good person.
I forgot. Me either.
I understand the algorithm. It's, why don't you be a better, more interesting person?
Stop being a loser, and I'll like you.
Yeah, quit it. Knock it off.
Maybe if you post more pictures of lobsters.
There you go.
Hey, it's Clawsember. Everyone's talking about Clawsember.
Mm-hmm. That's it. You need to put more to post more pictures of seafood.
Hey, he's not food. He's my friend.
Well, on that note, we could sign off because I have to see what this last email of the week from Carl at Bad Idea is.
Uh-oh.
Nah, nothing bad. Just probably take 2 minutes.
They need you to ink 22 pages overnight.
Give Carl my regards.
I will do that. You guys have a good night out there. We have fun. We had fun as usual on our Friday night habit.
And what did we learn? We learned about social media. We learned about...
We did. We learned that if Chris was a better person, he'd be better on social media, and probably me too. I mean, I'm not saying that's not true about me, but...
And he could afford lobster instead of calling them their friends.
If we were better, if we were more talented.
Lots of things we could be more of. All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.